Good. Started? Have we?
Yes, started.
I just fell backwards. Welcome to the South-Afrifur Pawdcast. I swear I closed that. Welcome to the South-Afrifur Pawdcast here at 8 o'clock p.m. Central African time. In EST, it's what, 1 o'clock there?
Yep.
Yep. Today we have a very special guest, somebody who we've been trying to get for the past 3 weeks. Potoroo from Canada. He's also you're the founder of Camp Farrell?
I'm the chair right now. I was there for the first year, but I was just a lowly shy furry at that point.
Okay. So while he's the chair of Camp Farrell as well as a well-known Canadian musical artist.
Yeah.
And I think I'm doing all right.
All right. Relatively well-known Canadian musical artist, as well as a person who's been for far longer than I think myself, Scratch, and Inpw like combined.
No, not combined.
Combined divided by 2. Let's put it like that. Maybe combined divided by 2.
With me, you can actually combine me. I haven't been a furry for that long, but yeah.
Yeah, but Ivic and I think have like a decade at least under our belts.
11 to 12 years, I think.
Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah, this guy is
And
going.
I think I'm.
Yeah, aren't you going into 2 decades?
3.
Yeah, I'm getting close to that. Yeah, I'll be at about 20 years in about a year and a half or so, I think.
Nice.
Yeah.
Keeping the dream alive.
In the 90s, in the 90s, you were a furry.
Yeah, I would have been, I guess, late 95, early 96 is when I would have gotten into furry.
Late 95, I was watching the World Cup. I was 8.
That was the Rugby World Cup, right?
Hey?
Yeah,
Rugby.
and 95
Rugby
Rugby
World
World Cup here.
Yeah,
If you're talking to South Africa and I talk about the 95 World Cup, I'm not talking about soccer.
Well, there's also cricket.
Yeah, that's a little early for that.
Yeah.
And my dad actually coached rugby, so I had a rugby upbringing to a degree.
Okay.
God,
Did you ever play?
No, I was more of a basketball player.
Hey, so you must be tall.
Don't ever assume that.
Yeah, I'm under 6 feet, but I was more like the guy that got the ball down the court and passed to the right guy. Yeah.
A link.
understandable.
Yeah.
Well,
If you
okay.
actually, if you compare netball to basketball, one of the reasons why they think that netball was ever created is because they were trying to, I think it's either basketball was created from netball or netball was created from basketball. But one of the two happened is that somebody drew a picture of what the court is supposed to look like, and I think this like the English or the whoever interpreted it that these players are not allowed to leave this section. Because I mean, like,
Actually, go ahead.
No. Go for it.
I was just going to say that it was a Canadian that invented basketball, so it's one of our little points of pride here.
No, I didn't know that. I thought it was a US sport.
It is a US sport.
No,
It is a U.S. sport now, but a Canadian invented it. His name is like James Naismith or something.
Yeah, but I meant created by the United States for the
Like
United
baseball.
States. Like baseball or American football.
Which
well,
It was based off rugby.
American football.
You would actually be really I know a lot of South Africans actually doesn't understand the rules for basketball. We don't actually watch that at all. I mean, baseball's rules and American football's rules are somewhat understandable, but basketball not really, because you don't see it on any of our channels or anything like that. The only thing is the only people that learns it is people that would actually go out and buy a basketball video game. And they'll learn how to play it. And there are some technicalities that I didn't know. My freaking sister's husband played it. And I'm like, no, what is that? The painted area. How does that work? And he's like, no, the rules work like this. So I actually figured it out off of a video game.
You learn a lot from video games. I don't play games much myself, but I know like when I went to visit furries in Brazil, a lot of them basically learned English beyond beyond just like conversational stuff you'd learn in school, to be fluent, they learned it all from video games, usually RPGs. So
but that's
I don't
the
play
worst.
games myself, but
That's the worst English to learn, because it's not fluent in a video game at all. If you guys don't remember video games like 5 years back, hey, how are you? And then,
I am fine, thanks.
I am
and you.
fine, thanks, and you.
No, you're thinking about the NPCs, like the NPCs chatting to one another. If you talk to someone in the game, there's usually like a proper dialogue tree going on.
yeah, and if you're like in a place like Brazil where everybody's speaking Portuguese and people don't really know English that well, then something like WoW or like an online game where you can actually interact one-on-one with another
That
speaker
makes
who's fluent.
more sense.
Yeah, so I think that's pretty neat. Again, like I haven't played games in a long time, but I totally appreciate the fact that people actually sort of can hone a language or meet people through them. I think that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
And they say video games are bad for you.
Yeah.
It
Well,
Who
they
was,
are.
says
They
that
help
with
their
any kind of
brains.
certainty?
it was bad for you when you were still playing it on CRT screens.
Well, everything was bad for you on a CRT screen. It's just like sitting in front of a bombardment of radiation.
And you had to sit close to see where Mario was.
Yeah.
So small.
Hey,
The only
it's not that old. CRT screens. I played Half-Life and all those games on CRT screens
Of course we did.
because
That's why my eyesight's going bad.
LCD and LED only came out like a little bit later than the first generation of those.
I was still playing on a CRT screen in 2009, 10.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't have money to buy an actual screen.
Yeah, I remember like lugging those things with the LAN was the worst.
But talking of old things, is one thing that I actually really enjoyed watching this weekend. Is for the first time I've watched Guardians of the Galaxy, and
Finally.
I freaking loved it. But
Why?
now,
Because of nostalgia?
now I'm thinking about the Sony Walkman thing and Potoroo being a furry from the 90s. How was that? I mean, you said you had internet access, right?
Yeah, totally. And by the way, I do want to call out that amazing segue you just did into this. Sony Walkman into 90s.
I had a
So
Sony
awesome.
Walkman.
Yeah, I had internet, really slow internet at home. It was pretty funny because it was all dial-up through the phone lines, and I couldn't stay connected longer than an hour.
Yes.
So if I wanted to like download something, I would have to get something that would download in an hour. But somebody pointed out this piece of software which would let you pick up downloads where you left off, but it took longer than an hour to download it.
See,
I could never get it.
At that time, I was too young to even know about like how to search for software for free online or anything like that. Remember, people, this is the days before Google existed. It was
that's the thing, I had-
in search.
And friends would tell me that I was never very technological, so they would tell me about them and direct me to them. But like not being a techie person, I couldn't figure out how to get something that let me download things longer than an hour if it took longer than an hour to get it. So I was kind of trapped. But I spent most of that time on IRC channels and on Furry Muck.
Okay.
I would chat with furs, and if I went to the university where I was attending university, there obviously wasn't a limit there. I would sometimes spend like 8 hours after my last class just in the computer pool on Furry Muck talking to furs.
Yeah, that's
And-
what I used to do on Saturdays.
And the artwork, there wasn't obviously as much artwork as there is today, but even though there is some things, how terrible it must have been to like load a picture on 56k dial-up.
Yeah, it's true because there were a lot of really good artists. Like obviously Wookie was kind of getting started in that point, and he was the big name back in those days. We had Ferris, who does really, really amazing detailed line art, and he was actually he was fairly local to me. So, and I lived with him for about 4 years. Ferris, he was the first giraffe, and I can say that with actual Yeah, at Certainty, he was the very first giraffe in furry. Yeah.
What about, do you remember Foxfire? He was also pretty big.
Totally.
Back in-
Yeah,
He still doing
I don't know if he still is. I know in the early 2000s, I think it might have been 2004 or 2005, I went to Anthrocon and had a dealer's table there it was a Camp Farrell dealer's table, but I also sold my music. And I ended up getting sat next to Foxfire.
Oh, nice.
And it was one of those weird things, you know the person as an artist, and at that point, in the mid-2000s, there was a big growth in, I don't want to say poppy furs, because it's a very negative term, but furs that were known, becoming more well-known. So I had this thing in my head that, oh my god, this guy's like a really talented artist, so I'm sort of sitting next to our equivalent of a celebrity, and then we literally were basically the same person. Like, we just sat there, we were rambling back and forth, we goofed around. On the last day, we were so hungover that we just sat there being miserable and just staring at people as they walked by, but it was kind of a cool reminder that just because somebody is really well known in the fandom, you make this assumption that they're probably going to be a jerk. For some reason, everybody jumps to that immediately, but often they're pretty sweet.
Questions. Sorry, from Buglish. Yeah. Who is Buglish?
I forgot. He said last week, and I can't remember right now.
Was the furry community big back then? Obviously, it was smaller than it is today. But let's ask Potoroo better, because he would have a more perspective of this insight.
It was pretty big, and like it's kind of hard to describe. But in Toronto always sort of felt like this big furry community, because there were literally hundreds of furries. They all knew each other. We had regular events like Halloween.
So back in the 1990s, the furry community in Toronto was still bigger than the furry community in the entirety of South Africa.
we had a little bit of a bonus though, because like there were a lot of writers, artists and cartoonists in furry that sort of got started out. A lot of them were in Toronto, or a lot of them visited friends in Toronto a lot. So we got to interact with a lot of the, like, back when Circles was starting out, K9 would come and visit Toronto, so we get to sort of hang out with them. And we had this, between the Bay Area of San Francisco and Oakland and all that in California and Toronto, there was a lot of back and forth. So there was sort of this connection of the furry community, and everybody, you could have a gathering. We used to have parties at our house just to invite the open invite to local furs to come over and hang out, and we at one point had over 100 people in our house. Just because the community's that easy to get together and bring over. So it's definitely not as big as now, and it felt a little more tied together. People seemed to all sort of have very similar interests at the time, so it wasn't as split apart in groups of interest. But definitely, it was smaller than now, but it was pretty big.
What did the fursuits look like back then? If there were any, I know there were very few.
There were suits, and one of the interesting things I learned when I was first hanging out with some of the furs that were there even before me, who got involved in furry in the late 80s, I would talk to them about what furry was like before, and obviously this is from their perspective. Maybe it was different in different parts of the country or the world, but they always described it as, like, when furry started out, it was all just artists and writers, and all they were doing was, it was a contribution fandom. So if you didn't draw or write or do cartoons, you weren't really a furry. And then the first people to sort of come in and infiltrate this were, quote, fans, people that wanted to buy art but weren't necessarily contributing. And up until that point, you'd do art trades. So if you wanted a piece of art, you'd draw a piece of art for it. And the idea of somebody saying, I would like to buy art from you, was strange. And the way they described it, they said it was really weird. And among the next group of people to sort of infiltrate furry, in quotes, were these people that did full-body costumes and cosplayed in fursuits.
So lifestylers.
Yeah, sort of lifestylers. You had the lifestylers, you had the fursuiters. And lifestyling was really big in Toronto when I got involved. It was sort of, when people look at lifestyling, I think there's a different picture of what it's all about. Because when I first got into furry, pretty much everybody was a lifestyler. Some people were fursuiters, and some of the early fursuits from at least our region were actually pretty cool, but they were all experiments. People were just sort of teaching themselves how to do it. Suits today are more like pieces of art, or if not pieces of art, they look like professionally made.
Mm-hmm.
Where back then it was very much more of an amateur look. It was a lot closer to a mascot suit, where it's baggy and kind of hangs down, than it was a modern fursuit, which is I prefer modern fursuits for sure.
Jeez, I had a question.
Well, I have one.
Yeah, well, actually, yes. Eric W. Schwartz came from the 1990s, didn't he?
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember like his art style was very, very toony still. It was very much sort of like based off of Looney Tunes, actually.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like the entire sort of overly drawn faces and things like that. When did people start doing more realistic, or not necessarily realistic, but I mean more sort of detailed art? I mean, if you look at say something like Folvy right now and Cherry Box.
Mm-hmm. When I was, the early stuff was really, really toony, and I don't want to say that Wookiee was the first person to sort of bring in using computers to shade and detail and stuff, but I remember when we started getting the more, it almost looked 3D colored art.
Mm-hmm.
That was sort of a bit of a revolution. So he was the most well-known artist that I know of at the time that was doing that. You started seeing other artists sort of take up that style, and almost in a reaction, I guess near the end of the 90s, I started noticing realistic, rather than cartooning kind of style, it was more of a realistic style coming out. It was probably the early 2000s when it became more popular.
Mm.
And then there was like Golden Wolf and Kilt, and there were people that kind of did a hybrid. There was somebody named Sidian, I think her name was.
Mm.
And she did like almost like a hybrid approach where it was very realistic fur, very realistic looking, but the faces were a bit more toony. So it didn't just look like Farrell, it looked like a toony, realistic toony. Which I always thought was cool, and I think that would have been mid-2000s when she was sort of
realistic
becoming
toony.
a bit
In
more.
other words, the anatomy is sort of correct, but the colors and shading is still like just a few tones.
Yeah, or
you
like the fur actually looks like real fur. Like there's a really heavy detail in the fur. The ears maybe have really heavy detail, so they pretty much look like a photograph. But the face, like the eyes, are designed to look more like cartoony because, you know, like if you drew a furry bat, their eyes would be round and kind of beady, but you want them to have that sort of more
If you
anthropomorphic
actually
eye
draw
look.
any animal like the animal looks, it won't look so great.
Yeah.
Were there any furry musicians back in the 1990s?
Yeah, one of the more well-known, there were a lot of well-known furs that were also musicians. So starting off, before he got into comedy too, did a lot of music.
Mm-hmm.
There's like a guy from Australia who goes by the name Farrell now, K-U-R-E. And people like Paf, Chris Goodwin, he did a lot of really cool remixes and a lot of really skilled Mule Boy. And it's weird, like in Russia, the Russian furries had a big support of music. From what I saw, they were releasing compilation CDs of Russian furry music since 2004. But sort of as a counter to that, in 2004, I was selling my CD at AC, and it was my first sort of solo release. I'd been in bands before, I'd recorded music before, but this was my first furry solo release. And in 2004, I was the only person there selling music in the dealer's room.
Mm-hmm.
And it was a bit of a pain because I had this really, really cool artwork for the cover, and everybody else who was selling CDs was selling art CDs. So people would drop by, see the cool artwork, ask to see my other art. I'd be like, no, there's music on the CD. And they just look at me confused because, like, what is furry music? They didn't quite understand that was something that would happen.
Yeah, but what is furry music?
I'm glad you asked. Furry music, I don't know if I would never define myself really as furry music. And I was actually asked this the other night by somebody about, is furry music a genre? And I'm like, I don't think it's really a genre. You might have like furry filk, where people are taking traditional songs and changing the lyrics to make them furry. One of the more popular ones is now I'm trying to remember. It's a Shania Twain song but they changed the word. Or actually, there's a Katy Perry one. I Kissed a Squirrel.
Oh,
Yeah.
I need to listen to that. I'll listen to that and remix it. If it does, oh man, dude, I need more ideas.
That kind of stuff's cool, and I think that's probably as close as you get to furry music.
And I think that laugh killed everybody.
Okay. Yeah, like I prefer to more refer to it as music by furs than furry music.
Exactly.
So I do find that a lot of. Yeah, go ahead.
Exactly. It's still if it's Shania Twain, it's gotta be country pop. It's gotta be that's your genre. There's no genre in furry music unless the lyrics are more.
You know what it was
actually?
I just remembered the song, and this is going to be awful, and I apologize to everybody listening, but the Shania Twain one was "Yif, I Feel Like a Furry" instead of "Man, I Feel Like a Woman," and it was pretty rough song.
Oh, nice.
Pretty rough song.
Gonna listen to it too. I just typed in "I kissed a squirrel," and for some reason it goes into Canadian citizenship. Kissed a squirrel.
Dude, I need to listen to that. When this podcast is over, I'm gonna find it. Unfortunately, I can't play it live. It's probably like copyrighted. But that's so funny.
I don't think you can copyright that.
You can copyright a cover if it's a proper cover.
Can I ask a few questions, if I may?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Scratch, are you typing your question?
Oh, sorry. I was going to say, being both Canadian. No, can you guys hear me? Am I lagging?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay, cool. My apologies. Being both Canadian. Being all three Canadian furry and a musician. Have you had any sort of contact with Renard Queenston or Casey Lalonde or any of those other sort of big furry musicians up there?
Actually, yeah. Renard is a bit of a different character. I know that I've contacted Renard a couple of times with regards to my other podcast because I do a show about furry music. And I was hoping that they would be interested in either doing an interview or having their music featured, or if they wanted like a feature, like they'd have a new song and I would play it on the show. But I found that Renard is a bit either reclusive or hard to contact, which is a little strange considering they literally live about 35 minutes down the highway from me. But they are apparently just more reclusive. I've talked to Casey, and through the podcast I've managed to talk to a lot of furry musicians, Fox Amour, Matthew Ebel, Pepper Coyote of Look Left, and Husky in Denial, all those people. I tend to talk to them fairly often. And Husky in Denial, actually, we're going to try to do sort of a combined performance at a con called FangCon, which takes place in November in Tennessee. So we might actually just be sharing the stage and instead of doing a show where he'll play his music and I'll back him up with instruments, I'll play mine, he'll back me up with his, and then we'll like maybe cover each other's songs and do stuff like that.
Oh, that sounds like fun.
Nice.
What instruments do you play?
Looking at my wall right now, I started on piano, but my first band I played bass, and then when that band broke up, I realized that standing on stage, solo playing bass and singing is stupid, and bringing a piano around is really complicated. So I taught myself guitar, And then since then, I've picked up banjo. I have a mandolin. I have an accordion, and I just pick up instruments to play them. I've been playing music since I was like 2, so it's like how my brain is wired.
Have you tried the bagpipes yet?
I want to so badly. So badly, I want to play bagpipes.
Yeah.
I could just imagine in like a Canadian kilt.
Oh, I have one of those. It's
Oh
got
my god, I didn't know they existed.
I have a Canadian kilt. It's a kilt. It has a red panel on the front with a white maple leaf in the middle of it.
I still need to get my bagpipes from Johannesburg, but I'll because I moved to Cape Town recently. But I'll buy a kilt and just freaking do it for the heck of it.
Okay, you get a kilt and just get a picture of yourself standing there with your bagpipes. I'll put on my kilt and get a picture of myself standing there with my accordion, and we'll Photoshop it together and try to see if we can convince people that we're like the most horrific furry band in existence. I think that's amazing.
All you need now is somebody with a trumpet.
Oh, easy. I can find somebody with a trumpet. I'm trying to think if there's another bad instrument. I have a didgeridoo as well, so I can give that to somebody.
I think my roommate from university still has ours. Damn it! We found it in our room when we moved in. I still remember
that didgeridoo.
Yeah, it was in my 5th year, I think. It was there somewhere. We just found it in a room, and I'm like, score.
Nice. I have a room full of instruments. I call it my Rudio instead of studio, and it's where I record. But because I have so much junk as well, just things I've collected. I have a lot of art on the wall. I have an original Evil Dead cinema poster for the first movie framed up on my wall, and it's just chaos in this room. So I don't even know how I move in it.
A little bit right now.
I'm old, remember, I can collect stuff.
Yeah, but The Evil Dead is like one of my favorite movies, like the entire trilogy.
Same.
But that thing with instruments and gadgets happen in the music industry, trust me, I know. We had like analog mixers and crap that is like so old, and you don't want to throw it away, so you keep it and it just builds up and collects dust. Old freaking guitars, old freaking everything, a set of bagpipes.
Amazing.
And pan flutes and keyboards and
fuck pan flutes.
Dude.
Well, there we go. We need a kilt and a pan flute as well.
Pan flute and the accordion. Yeah, so we're good.
And you can Photoshop the South African flag onto the kilt that you're going to buy.
I even have my first guitar still.
Jeez, my guitar's still down in Stellenbosch.
Really?
Yeah.
Where?
Not my electric. The acoustic is still down there, steel string.
Okay. Well, if you really badly need it, I'll probably go fetch it from whoever still has it.
It's Mark would have it actually.
Okay. Well, I'll
keeping it there with my kettle and my fan.
But I think part of it has to do with the price you pay for the things, and I would almost say that electronic components has less resale value than cars, because nobody buys second-hand equipment.
Very few people.
Yeah, very few people. There are things like Craigslist equivalents here. Like there's one called Kijiji. And in Ontario, and I've managed to pick up some really cool shit from it that's just like, oh, can I swear?
Go for it.
No.
Okay, cool. I've managed to get some pretty cool shit from it that's just like I got a set of studio speakers, like digital studio speakers that are normally like $1,000 for about $200. So
which speakers?
Used equipment is gold. They're Roland DM somethings. Yeah.
Yeah, mine is about half.
But there was just random.
And I paid more for mine because I bought it brand new.
And here, where the import tax is something stupid.
One of the things that I wanted to ask, actually, I mean, we spoke about the entire idea of, you know, the fandoms have started out sort of like trading from one side to the other side, like that. Know that if you look at Electrocat actually does like 1,000-word, you know, descriptions and short stories now for I think $5. One of our like
which I think is cool.
Yeah, she's one of our local contributors in art and everything. She's gotten a lot better since she started out in 2007, 8, 9. I don't know.
Mhm.
But what I wanted to ask is that like I know we had a talk with JM from Adjective Species, and one of the things that we never actually got around to, which is something that we really, really wanted to get around to, is that one of his articles actually spoke about like two sort of disparate like points. Like there was a shift in people being fans and then people being, you know, lifestylers. So like as the years moved on, what was the influence towards that? How did that get like? How did that become into being?
You mean like the shift where you had the split between people that, in lack of a better term, take it too seriously and are just here for the fun?
Yeah.
Kind of a thing?
Yeah.
'Cause that's sort of how I usually hear it described. People are like lifestylers, suitors, or just people that devote their time to it, take it too seriously. When I was first getting involved in the 90s, there was a news group, way flashback. Everybody understands news groups, right? They were kind of like online bulletin boards. People would post sort of like a forum.
No.
And there was a whole bunch of them called Alt Fan. And there was like Alt Fan Furry and stuff like that. But there was one called Alt Fan Fur Style. And that got started up by a guy who currently lives up north in Ontario in Canada. And it was the first sort of attempt to bring people together, or at least the first known one I know of, to bring people together to talk about seeing furry as more like a culture and a community rather than a fandom. And that started just before I got involved, and I think that's part of the reason why in Toronto there was such an influx of people that were, quote, taking it too seriously. There was definitely a split, but I don't remember there being much animosity between people that were just there to be fans and people that were starting to refer to themselves by their nicknames or getting into furry houses like I did pretty early on, where you'd have just a house full of furries. And part of the lifestyling thing was more that if your friend who was a wolf was around, you'd refer to them as a wolf. You saw that they were a person. You knew they were a person. You weren't deluding yourself into thinking that they were anything but. But as part of the furry culture, the joke you might play on your roommate may have, or like ribbing them, making fun of them for something, may play into more being that they're a fox or that they're a wolf or that they're a rabbit. And it was sort of just accepted at that point.
Potoroo? Hello? Ivic, Scratch, are you guys still there? Alright, something is going wrong. Hello?
Hello? Yo,
guys,
I think for some reason I'm controlling this call.
Like everyone just sort of died for a second.
Yes, I don't know, my stream says 0 dropped frames, but the call died. So something went wrong. Sorry about that, Potoroo, you were saying, are you online?
Yeah.
Hello, Potoroo?
Potoroo?
He's on his way back into the...
Yeah, he's styling. Okay, something just went horribly wrong. Welcome to South Africa Internet.
Cap says he's still calling. Yeah, we'll get him here in a second.
Okay. Well, that was interesting. Hi, guys.
Hello, how are you? Alright, I think there's some network issues that we're dealing with here. I hope this doesn't persist because I can hear the voices quality going down. Skype does it automatically.
Yeah.
Let me just have a look. Oh, there, Potoroo is gone again. Ivic?
Well,
and scratch. I have this idea that Ivic is hosting this call.
Yeah.
Hello, Ivic.
That happens. Yeah, I would say
That I think same thing. I'm gonna kill it. Yeah.
Here we go again. Okay, let me try it like this. How's it?
Hello.
Yes, I think Ivic was actually running that call, and he's on 3G. That's why it causes some problems here and there. Let me just try to get you all back online again.
Hello. Are we back?
Hello.
Yes, your names are just wrong now.
That's fine.
Let me just edit that. Right. All right. Where were we?
You were, Potoroo, you were talking about like how,
Yeah.
there was like one person on like alt, what was it, alt culture,
It was like alt fan furry lifestyle, or alt furry lifestyle, and I'll keep this short. It's kind of interesting talking about old timey stuff, but I don't want people to think I'm super old or something.
Oh man.
But but yeah, it was. There were a lot of people getting into suiting. It was around that time that Camp Farrell got started in '97. I won't tell the Farrell story. We can leave that for another day.
No, I actually really
basically
have a Farrell story, but yeah.
You want to hear it?
I want to hear.
Well,
it
basically,
when you're done with this.
Yeah, and Farrell getting started, and sort of this group of lifestyling was happening, and there was a group of furs in Toronto that had an apartment right down near a place called Church and Wellesley, which is the gay village. So a lot of the younger furs, gay and straight, it was just like this party place, would go there to visit them, and they were heavily into lifestyling. Not like, they didn't walk around actually thinking that they were rabbits things.
So they're not other kin, they just take it a little bit very...
No, they were. It wasn't even taking it more seriously. It was almost the opposite. Because before that, before other Cantharians, there was a group called Wares, like werewolves. The Wares really did not like the furries, and my backstory has a bit of Were in it, but I kind of got out of that. And the main reason I got out of it was they took it so seriously, and the difference was the furries were having fun. So the big difference between the lifestyling that's described where people take it too seriously and they're like they think that they're actually the animal. Not that I'm saying there's anything wrong with that, but I'm saying the difference between that and what I was seeing in Toronto was, in Toronto you had this group of fun-loving people that were, for lack of a better term, really, really proud and excited to be furries. So they weren't ashamed of it, they were happy to be open about it, and they'd have parties and invite all their furry friends. We'd go out to bars. There was actually a bar up the street from them called Babylon, and Babylon was a martini bar that was like a high-end martini bar. They were $10 per drink, and I'm going to say
Holy crap.
The guy who ran it. The guy who ran it, we referred to him as the Martini Nazi, because there were 3 floors in this building, and the bottom floor was the sort of premier floor, and every single table had a reserved sign on it, and there was never anybody who had a reserved table. He just only let people in that he wanted on the main floor. Generally, the main floor was full of people in business suits and fancy clothes, but for one exception, he would actually kick people out of the main floor to one of the other floors when the furries showed up. And we'd have a group of 10 or 12 furries, all in nerdy t-shirts, all very much the kind of nerdy furries you'd expect. But for some reason, he loved having the main floor because we were just always in a good mood, always happy, having loud, boisterous conversations, and it kind of brought the whole room up. So there was this like weird sort of culture around that time where all the furries kind of got together. We'd go out, be very openly furry, not like necessarily ears and tails, but we'd just be ourselves, and that was just how it was. Like, we never saw anything strange about it. This whole sort of people taking it too seriously thing that I see more often now it's a bit more of a recent thing. Like, I see it a lot on Reddit, on the furry subreddit, people sort of ragging on people for taking furry seriously, where I think it's less taking furry seriously and more people just enjoying it and not caring what people think.
First, just want to have fun.
Yeah, Scratch.
Yeah,
one day,
exactly.
One day it's going to be you and me that's going to sit and say, yeah, we used to hang out at this bar called also with a B.
Yeah.
And,
Yeah.
and we used to pay $2 for like a beer.
You do know that, like, I also hang out in a bar that starts with a B.
but for different reasons.
Oddly enough, we also have a Babylon. There's a VIP area, and then there's the general area downstairs.
I know,
Really?
Babylon. Yeah.
That Babylon is awesome. It's the best gay bar. No, it's not even a gay bar. It's a gay club. You just walk in there, and it's just
Gay.
I don't know, like tonsil hockey everywhere.
Ugh.
Gross.
That's what it was like. Yeah, like last
Uh-huh.
night, a good friend of mine was there, and just 1 second he was gone, and then he came back, and he had this twink on his arm, and the two of them were macking out while trying to figure out who they were.
Damn. I'm
Furries.
They weren't even furries, but the one is sort of a furry. He wants to be a dragon. That's another question that I want to ask, segueing straight through into that one. The entire idea of furry stereotypes, how did that come to be, like, sort of, how did that, well, I mean, obviously, there's a little bit of truth in every stereotype.
Yeah.
But how did that become sort of like a thing? Why do the pretentious people tend to choose dragons, or
It's so
why do all
weird,
the people who want, like, sex choose to be foxes?
Foxes. It was totally organic, and I think a lot of it came from furry muck and tapestries and other mucks. Because when I first got into furry, it was almost like it was organic. It's not like I was put into a fake little graphic designed room and was, given a lesson on what furry was all about. But all the little stereotypes, all the lingo, all the sort of basic idea of what furry was kind of easily absorbed just from jokes. It was mostly through jokes people told, stories people told, and I find that there's a standard stereotype for species that has lasted from the beginning till now. But there's also like these alternate ones that grow up regionally. Like, I know there was a place in the States, I heard a podcast where a furry was talking about species stereotypes, and to them, it was snow leopards were the foxes. And to me, I was like, I've never heard that before. I wonder what that's about. All I can figure is that in their local area, there must be some snow leopards that have fox tendencies. So they've kind of twisted the stereotype for their own region. But the idea that foxes are what foxes do, and dragons, I've heard pretentious. I've also heard just sort of, I guess pretentious is a stereotype. For lions, the stereotype
Holier than thou, maybe?
Yeah, and lions had like a grumpiness and self-centeredness that was always sort of associated with them. And what I always thought was neat is kangaroos, because I started off as a kangaroo before I merged into what I am today, which is still very much.
What is the jackal stereotype?
The jackal stereotype? It's funny you say that. I live with a jackal, and he's my best friend. So I don't know if there's actually a stereotype. All I know is that jackals tend the one that I know tends to be most people seem scared of them when they first meet them. But then once they get to know them, they realize they're not scary. But I don't know. I think it's maybe I know jackals in reality are very communicative and have sort of strong ties to each other. So whether that plays over, because in some cases the furry stereotype, plays straight from the either legend or mythological stereotype, or just like the behavioral stereotype. Like kangaroos are known for being mediators, and kangaroos in furry, especially when I started out, were known as the sort of super happy, fun-loving guys that are just always running around trying to make sure everybody's okay and having a good time. And that very much plays into the whole mediator stereotype from mythology. But I also noticed a lot of the kangaroo furries that I met were very much the same. They were always wanting to have a good time, but always wanting to make sure everybody else had a good time, and tended to step in to mediate between problems.
Okay. Scratch, what was your what was that wonderful little thing that you say about Folfs?
Oh no, I'll keep that.
No, please do. Let them know.
I just saw it somewhere. I just saw like a random picture online of that, like some furry artist apparently drew. It's just a sort of disgruntled look, or like unimpressed looking wolf saying, "You're a Folf, so you're basically like a condom with muscles." And for some reason that stuck with me. I don't know why.
That's actually pretty awesome.
But
yeah, because what is your? I mean, like you said that you started out as a kangaroo. Like, what did you sort of evolve into?
Yeah. So I'll play this into a question that am I pronouncing it right if I say Buglish, or is it Booglish?
I think it's
Buglish.
Let's just stick with Buglish.
Bug. I'll just say Bug. I'll pull in one of Bug's questions too. So when I started out, long before I found furry, so in high school, I always referred to myself as being half kangaroo, like to my friends, which was really weird at the time because we're talking early 1990s high school in rural Ontario. But people accepted it because I was kind of a weirdo, but I just always felt a connection to kangaroos, never really explained it. Then when I found furry, I just obviously realized I'm a kangaroo, so I jumped in with that. But before that, and this is sort of hopped in maybe too, but before that, I found this book, and this is a bit of a backstory on the name too, Potoroo. I found a book by Eastman and Laird for a RPG called Heroes Unlimited, and it was sort of tied to Ninja Turtles, and it was called Mutants Down Under. And it was one of those role-playing game character book kind of things. And I never played role-playing games, but I liked the art in it, so I bought it. And there was a picture of this really cool-looking kangaroo, and underneath it was a sort of block of text for the Potoroo. So I decided Potoroo would be my nickname. And I took that on, absolutely love it. I eventually took the time to read. This is after my name was already settled and people knew me by that name. I eventually read the block of text under the picture and realized it was describing not the picture above it, but just describing a different kind of kangaroo. And a Potoroo actually looks like a round ball of fluff with a really long nose, which is not at all what I look like. So my species... My name has nothing to do with my species, but it is a species of kangaroo. And I took on the Eastern Grey kangaroo because I thought Eastern Greys were pretty cool. I like the color gray for some reason. And then around 2 years in, I also realized that I had a really cool connection to gargoyles. I thought gargoyles were really cool. So at that point, there wasn't that much in the way of... There were hybrids, but not many hybrids in furry. But I decided I would just throw a set of gargoyle wings on my back and just call myself a rugoyle, keep it like that. And it's sort of... I've been like that since. I've had a pink mohawk for about the last 10 or 12 years, so obviously my character has it too. I have piercings, so my character has that too. And a 2007, I got myself a tattoo of the gargoyle wings. So my whole back's basically a set of gargoyle wings too.
Nice.
Oh,
That must be difficult.
Yes.
Wow.
Oh, that's really, really amazing. I actually really like that. That's awesome.
My character has a piercing, but I don't have one, and I don't think I'll actually get one, to be honest. I don't know why.
what? What?
A piercing?
Yeah, piercing.
Oh, that
What's
lip piercing of yours.
Yeah, just a labrae under the lower lip, like in the middle.
Yeah, but
Those
you
are
got too much
cool.
stubble there.
Fair warning to you though.
Yeah?
I know somebody that had one and actually wore away their gums.
Yeah.
Ah,
The
cool.
gums at their bottom teeth got worn away. Yeah.
More reason not to get one.
Yeah, I try to stay safe. I have one in my nostril, 3 in my ear, and I have a tongue ring. And the tongue ring was probably the easiest one to get.
I have a horror story about a tongue ring that I
Yo,
won't talk
please.
online.
Don't even. I was sort of semi-part of that entire thing, remember?
Well, you can plug your ears then. If anyone really wants to hear it, I will tell it. But
I want to
I want to hear it. You don't say you're gonna tell us a horrible story and then don't tell it.
I was gonna tell it offline. I don't want anyone else like on the stream to be squeamish about it. But yeah,
Okay,
Just tell the shortened version.
oh, okay. Yeah. Spoiler alert. Like for the next. Okay, let's round it up to like a minute. I'll keep it short. The next minute, there's gonna be a little bit of a graphic description of the horror story that my one friend had with the tongue ring. Starting now. Basically what happened is he decided to get a piercing in his tongue, but apparently the guy he got it from was a little bit shoddy, and he barely nicked an artery. Didn't bleed out on sight, but he did nick an artery. Then he allowed like 2 or 3 weeks for it to heal, and when he thought it was healed up, he went to a house party, got pretty drunk, somehow I think either the blood was too thin or the walls of the artery wore away while he still had the thing in, but he basically started bleeding from his tongue into his mouth, and it basically looked like this entire like liver of blood that he like pushed out every minute into like this ice cream tub. Ended up in hospital. Story over.
I should
Gross as it was. Yeah.
wow.
I shouldn't laugh. That's pretty awesome.
That must have been quite an entertaining drinking session.
Yeah. Yeah.
Thinning of blood equals death.
Yeah, basically, and yeah. So
Scott actually has a lot of stories involving blood.
Yes, and
Like
people
that
falling off
day that
roofs.
he got hit by a rock.
Oh yeah, that is kind of shitty. I still have the scar, but it's not not massive. It's not like, Jesus, did a shark bite you or something? No, it's not that.
Yeah, I still remember my that ice skating incident that I have as
Yeah.
well.
Yeah.
Oh, that was horrifying.
By
I
the
was
way,
never ice
Scratch, how are you
skating.
feeling today?
I'm fine actually. I didn't take a lot. We were playing paintball yesterday, so yeah, I didn't get a lot of damage, but I did sort of eat the dirt when I was trying to tag someone else in, and that kind of sucked. I think I like somehow bombed my knee, but I'm still alive.
Good stuff. Falstaff, how well do you know him? Jay Willard.
Jay Willard. I know her from, and it's a her. She actually came to Farrell. Jessica Willard came to Farrell 2001. At that point, I was pretty obsessed with Falstaff. He was my favorite character, and we hit it off pretty well. Me and Jessica would chat fairly often, and especially at Anthrocon. Back in the day when I used to go, we would go and hang out a bit. And because me as a person and Falstaff as a person are very similar, we're kind of like happy, upbeat, tell bad jokes, have a good time, not in that way. Let's pretend I'm not talking about that. But generally are in a good place in life. She felt that we'd kind of hit it off. So she did a couple of pictures with me and Falstaff hanging out, which is very cool for me because I love Falstaff.
You know, in Falstaff, like, I still remember, when Scratch and I were still, like, starting out as well. I used to find all of those pictures, and I was like, yeah! I used to download, like, every single one of them and just look through them every single time.
Well, if you
Like,
look through really closely, you might find another one with me that I can't talk about here.
Aha!
Yeah. So I'd like to divert the conversation, if I may, a little bit to Camp Farrell. Like, what's the vibe like? You said there was a Camp Farrell story, apparently.
Yeah.
Do share with us those experiences, please.
Sure. Camp Farrell, I guess a quick story about the birth of Camp Farrell is that there was Anthrocon was starting out. Anthrocon started in 1997, and a couple of furries from Toronto went down and really loved it and thought, why can't we do something like that in Toronto? So one of them said, I want to do a fur meet, basically like Anthrocon, but in Toronto. And then there was another person involved in Toronto Furry who said he wanted to do a furry university where they'd actually rent out a university during summer, like dorms and seminar spaces, and do workshops on writing and art and costuming, that kind of thing. And then a third furry said we should do a summer camp. And they had gone camping that summer, and while traveling back from camping, they drove by a camp, like a summer camp, and basically just drove up to the summer camp in Algonquin Park and started talking to the owners. And by the time they left, they'd set up that they would be coming the next year, 1998, for what would be the first Camp Farrell. And Camp Farrell is, I really enjoy it because it's a very community sort of based kind of camp. It's like a furry con, but everybody eats communally. Everybody eats sort of together in the same giant old mess hall. There's summer camp activities like archery and swimming and wall climbing and all that kind of stuff. There's communal games like Predator versus Prey and Capture the Flag, where everybody plays that kind of game. And then in the evenings, there are events like dances, musician circles, improv. So it's kind of like, it's basically like a summer camp for furries, which Kage, he attended about 2 or 3 times. And when he attended it, he said his way of describing it is, think of all the things you've ever hated about summer camp. That's not what happens at Farrell. And think about all the things you've ever loved about summer camp. That's what happens at Farrell. And that's pretty much it. And there's the added bonus that the owners and camp staff, the non-furry camp staff who run the camp, basically absolutely adore us. So they're like an extension of furries. They're a lot like furries because camp counselors are just fun-loving adults for the most part. So they love having us there because we'll do the silly games that the kids would play, but then after we do the silly games the kids could play, we can sit on the front porch with our acoustic guitars and play Radiohead songs together and stuff.
You know, I'm sorry for saying this, but what I'm envisioning is actually probably not what it is, but we don't actually know summer camp. Okay. But we know we sort of know from film and whatnot what it actually is, and what you hear.
I've gone to summer camps.
Oh, yeah. Well, we've had a few like high school.
Yeah, they're like high school camps where you go like something like that, but not literally like what the United States in the films refer to as summer camp. And every time I envision it, every time somebody mentions it, I think about that movie Addams Family Values.
Yes.
I have.
Yeah. Yeah. Actually, what I usually think of is Friday the 13th. And I'm obsessed. I'm obsessed with horror movies and low budget films. So in 2010 we did Farrell the 13th because it was our 13th camp, and we thought it was like a Friday the 13th theme. And every year after that, people have been saying you did a horror movie theme, and that was our most popular year. They were like, you have to do a sequel. So this year we're doing a sequel. It's Farrell the 13th Part 2. But we wanted to shake it up, so it's Jason versus Slender Moose.
Okay. Wow.
Slender Moose.
Yeah, oh, totally.
I need to draw that, like a moose with like noodly legs.
Do it. And our guests of honor this year are Edge Destroys on Twitter, who's a very cool artist on FA, and also Ivic, who's also a really cool artist. And Edge is a big fan of horror movies, so he's going to be doing some pretty creepy Slender Moose art for us.
I'm a fan of it, but what I'm thinking about is that, especially that scene where the daughter of the Addams family... Wednesday, yes, that's her name. Well, I had to sit in a room and watch that marathon of Disney movies. And she started smiling. That was the funniest part of that entire movie. Sorry, it's a crappy sense of humor, but it was movies back in the 90s.
It was the 90s. Everyone had to have a Walkman.
Did you have a Sony Walkman, by the way? I had one.
Yes,
I'm not
totally.
sure if it was a Sony, but I had a Walkman.
Yeah, I didn't have the tape player. Well, my sister had the CD player.
So I also had a CD player, and then I was riding bicycle one day, and a thing fell out. Those CD players were rubbish. Even the Sony Walkman was just a better device. The CD players, the freaking just slightest hit, and that anti-skip mode, right?
Yeah.
Bullshit.
It was just
It does not work.
Make
nothing.
a lie.
Yeah, that was the days when you couldn't when ROMs didn't have capacity to store even a single music track. I think
I think all the shit Sony's getting these days is just retribution for that anti-skip nonsense.
Yeah.
Yeah, but the Walkmans were pretty cool. They didn't skip, and the only shit with tapes is a tape didn't last forever. Eventually, they started sounding like a little bit weird.
Start warping.
And warpy. Yeah, eventually it's just unlistenable. But that's one thing for the 90s. We also talk about that actually a lot, because we have a lot of furs here that actually... Well, I don't know if you could characterize me as a 90s kid, because my high school years was in the 2000s. So you need somebody a little bit older than me to be characterized as a 90s kid.
Yeah, and that's the weird thing, because, like, I guess theoretically I should be an 80s kid, but I existed more in the 90s, so I really consider myself more a 90s kid than an 80s kid. But I know people who were born in, like, 1992, 93 who consider themselves 90s kids.
Why? They
But,
didn't
like,
ever go through the phase where they had to wear bell-bottoms, buffalo shoes,
Yeah.
and moon bags.
All that
yeah,
good
and,
shit.
like, I had a pair of
Those ones
parachute
with it, like-
pants.
Oh my god.
So what makes you a 90s kid? I would say I don't know. It depends on how people view it. Maybe you were during the majority of your school years was in the 90s.
I think the majority of, and I think it has to lean to a bit of the older school years, because like part of the reason I see myself as a 90s kid is that all the big moments in time that were important happened when I was in high school. So when hip hop started becoming popular, sort of more popular in the mainstream, but also when grunge came in, I was in grade 10 or 11 when Kurt Cobain killed himself. Mm-hmm. And although it didn't really affect me as emotionally as it did others, like when you hear about people saying that like lives changed and people were like completely destroyed when it happened, and you sort of look back at it as a separate person, like not having been there, it's true. Like I knew people that were crying for like weeks after that happened because it affected them so much. Little things like that you may not think of as like being sort of life-changing at the time really were. And
Same
the
thing
fact
what's his name? Holy crap, Freddie Mercury.
Freddie Mercury, it's the same thing. People who weren't even really into Queen were really broken up with Freddie Mercury. And like Princess Diana is another one that like in Canada, it probably affects people who are part of a Commonwealth. We understand it differently than people outside.
Yeah,
so people
but here is one thing.
Yeah.
South Africa is part of the Commonwealth.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, but I mean,
By the
like
way.
my mom was broken when Diana died.
Yeah.
She was
but-
she was over the, like, I don't know, she was inconsolable for about 2 days.
Yeah, and we were too. I remember we were at a high school party with a bunch of friends, and like we would never have talked about Princess Diana for like the entirety of our high school year, like nobody, or like career, like nobody brought her up. But when somebody showed up and brought us the news, there was like silence for 30 minutes as people were like, what just happened? Things that don't seem like they should affect you. And it still happens today, it's true, but just as sort of like from a 90s perspective, those were some of the big things that happened where it's like, oh my God, what's going on?
But now,
And then, of course, there was Kosovo and
now
all
that
that
Very
stuff,
much.
yeah.
Now that we go to the 90s and you say, okay, a little bit of your later school years, in other words, high school years, leaning to the older school years, maybe that categorizes a person as a 90s kid. What about the young people that was in primary school and they had albums like Limp Bizkit and Korn and... and started smoking, and what about those kids?
Those kids need some professional help.
Oh, fuck you. Oh, well, maybe you're right. That's a good concept. Because a lot of people think that when they're born in the 90s, it makes you a 90s kids. No, it is when you're actually if you lived in the ages of that style and you had that fashion.
The formative years,
and like,
pretty much.
I do recall things like we never had cable TV at home. We didn't have the money for it, but I'd visit friends and they'd have like Much Music, which was Canadian MTV. And I remember stuff like Tears for Fears, Shout being played, or listening to the radio and hearing some of that new wave music of the 80s. Like, I existed in the 80s, but I wasn't like conscious in the 80s. It was the 90s when I became conscious. So if you were born in 1989, you may have had Pokemon and all that through the 90s, but really you're more of a millennial, because that's when you hit the 2000s and you're 11, 12, 13 years old or whatever, you're more conscious of what's going on around you. Yeah. And it's interesting now because you have furries. I've met furries. I was talking to a furry about a year and a half ago, and they were talking about how they really wanted to come to Farrell. Another aspect about Farrell is we're 19 plus for a whole bunch of different reasons. But we're a 19 plus event, and there was a person that said, I really want to go to Farrell. And I was like, well, here's the site. And they said, oh, but I won't be able to go for a little while. And in my head, I'm thinking they're 16 or 17. They were like 13.
Wow.
And then I stop and I realize, yeah, you're not going to be going to Farrell until about 2020.
Yeah.
And it's really weird to think that, like, when I started in furry, I was one of the younger ones there. I was 19. And most people I knew were in their 20s or up to their 30s. But now I'm meeting furries at furry events that are like 15, 16. And it's not necessarily a bad thing. Like, I've never been one to be anti-minor. Also, like, I feel that a lot of younger furries can contribute to the community, and that is a lot of negative attention played to them, and maybe the negative attention is badly targeted.
It's not about being anti-minor, and this is what a lot of the younger guys, even when we're throwing a big party and there is going to be lots of people and
much booze.
The majority of them is all there, and there's going to be alcohol there. Now we're not. It's not that people are afraid that you as a kid are going to consume alcohol. The thing is what people are afraid is the responsibility they have on the children there. Because now, right, you have older guys, big guys, and people going crazy nuts, and then you have a group of 13-year-olds. The two don't... they don't mix together very well.
I know that there's in both directions, there's... I know I've heard a few younger furries saying that they find older furries kind of weird, or they just can't get along with them. In the opposite direction, obviously, older furries saying the younger furries are too hyperactive and I can't handle them. When we made the decision to make Farrell, when we made the decision to make Farrell 19 plus, it was actually the hardest decision we ever had to make, because at the time we were making that decision, 2 or 3 of our staff had first attended Farrell as minors. And they were among our best friends, and they were among our hardest workers. So we were essentially, the decision we were making is, we're going 19 plus for a variety of reasons, mainly for insurance, because insurance was just through the roof if you have people under the age of 19. But it was also the decision to say, okay, are we going to cut off all these people that traditionally up to this point have proven to become some of our closest friends over time.
Exactly, and they're supportive for the community and everything like that. But at the end of the day, the responsibility for those people lie in you guys' hands, and that's why the decision gets made. That's why the decision gets made. If a person is you're more what do you call it? Self-sufficient, right?
Sufficient, yeah.
When you're out of school.
Yeah.
So there, people don't. There, actually, what happens is the world stop caring about you, and then people start to realize this, and they start building their own lives.
Yeah.
So I almost thought you were going to say, and then you realize the world stops caring about you, and then you start drinking. I always thought that's where that sentence was going.
But it's the way it works. So
actually, Bug, I have just a follow-up to a question there. Bug has asked about Camp Farrell. How dangerous is Camp Farrell if you need insurance? Actually, every event you'll need insurance. Just especially if you're signing a contract with a host. So like every hotel con has insurance. We definitely have to have insurance. Our insurance is pretty high compared to hotel cons, mainly because there's a lake and we allow booze. But I mean, I'll knock on wood. We've never had a problem. Nobody's gotten hurt, and generally people handle themselves pretty well. So, but you do have to have insurance, especially if you're going to be asking people to pay you to bring you somewhere and entertain you there. There's always going to have to be some kind of insurance, especially the site themselves. The campsite wants to see that we have insurance, just in case somebody, like, you're not allowed to smoke inside a cabin, obviously, because a cabin's made of wood. Say somebody did and burned down the cabin, we couldn't afford to pay for it, so we have insurance. Yeah. So just to answer that question.
Yeah.
Now, speaking about, like, the younger generation and things like that, I mean, obviously a lot of them want to go to things like Anthrocon and, like, all of these cons and things like that. And now, the entire idea of the parent of a furry, how exactly how would one approach that without having them sort of shut down on it completely? I know that a lot of the younger people on our side, I mean, as soon as we start, like, the ball rolling for a con down
like an
here.
Event?
Yeah, an event. I mean, like, how do they approach it? I mean, like, I know that there was a 16-year-old kid actually at I had a small fur meet with like 16 people.
Yeah.
I was expecting 13, and then that just didn't happen. Like, it was in my house, and this guy's father just dropped them off, and I was there, and I mean, like, I was, like, looking very, very shoddy as well. I was drinking and running around at the same time, trying to get people into the complex. I always look shoddy. Just shut the hell up, okay? I've accepted it.
Yeah, you don't look shoddy. You also look shady at the same time. So
fuck off. Yes, I look like a child molester.
You don't necessarily look like a hobo. You also look like a murderous hobo.
Yeah, wait until I shave my head.
Yeah, that's gonna be even worse.
It's because all you guys freaking try to look like hipsters.
I'm not trying to look like a hipster. I'm trying to look like a metalhead.
Then grow your hair out.
Then grow your hair out and color
my
it black.
My hair has been grown out, and I'm not going to color it black. No.
If you want to look like a metalhead, color it black.
Why is black a thing?
Because that's metal.
Yeah.
No. I know a lot of blonde metalheads.
What type of metal do you listen to? Obviously not the right kind.
Metal.
Oh, power metal. Exactly. I forgot.
Go suck up.
Power metal is the blonde dudes. I forgot that.
No, that is hair metal. Hair metal is the blonde dude.
No, power metal is the blonde dudes.
No,
what about Scandinavian metal? Like, that kind of stuff. That's also sort of
blonde people.
Yeah, because the Scandinavians are just blonde to begin with.
Or punk. No man.
Wow.
Death metal, new metal.
I'm not into that. I don't like it.
That's the black hair.
That's not what I was going for. Exactly. But I just want long hair. Okay?
But the power metal is also not working for you.
Go home. Get out.
Potoroo, do you have like excessive facial hair?
What the fuck? I have. No, I don't. I have a trimmed. I guess it's goatee or a Van Dyke. It's the one that goes around my mouth.
That's perfect. That's normal.
I have that too.
No, you freaking grew your beard.
Yes, I know I did. And there was a point that I actually shaved it off because it was getting itchy as hell.
Exactly. That's why I can't do it. I tried to Movember once.
Do you have any idea how hot your face gets?
No, it's not about that.
I have
and
hair coming
freaking
from the top, and then I've got hair at the bottom, and I'm just kind of sitting there going like, I am going to die. Yeah, it's not fun.
And you guys wouldn't believe it, but an Atelier recording studio. Ooh, okay. Oh, I'll need to edit that out. in the studio, way back, right when we started it up, I had long black hair.
I cannot imagine you with long hair.
Now these guys don't know me like this. Potoroo, I shave my hair off
Oh, like completely?
completely.
Okay.
So I want to. They wouldn't even recognize me.
Please tell me that you've got a picture. I need to see this.
I have pictures, yeah. Nah, I can't do it now. But I actually want to do it again. It's just so freaking hard.
and it takes forever. Jeez.
Oh, that as well.
Actually, I've burned my hair out to the length that it is now in about 6 months.
Yeah, but that is forever for me.
My problem is I don't the interstitial period between like when your hair is like long and when it's like properly like I could put it in a ponytail long is just unwieldy, especially my hair.
Scratch, you look like a mushroom.
I know. I have this. I'm not. There's, as far as I know, there's no Jew in my family, but I have a Jew fro when I washed my hair.
He literally looks like a mushroom. It's the most amazing thing.
Yeah. See, I almost don't wash my hair on a regular basis just so it gets weighed down more.
Now, the only thing that was an issue when trying to go for the death metal look is actually my hair makes like long curls, right? Mm-hmm. So my stepsister comes with a straightener and she says, okay, you have to do this. And I'm like, wow, this looks amazing. Look how freaking metal I look. And she's like, you have to do that every day. One wash and it's just going to go away. Now, I don't know anything about that, right? So
But always go for a Brazilian.
I'm freaking washing my hair and I'm like, what the hell? Oh, no. Oh, shit. Okay, so I need to do this every day. And then I'm like, nah, shave it off.
Yeah.
Huh.
I don't know.
No, I really looked bad, and I was pale as hell. I really looked like a death metal kid, even though. Yeah.
Oh, Potoroo, I actually wanted to ask you, since you're like in the music industry as well, and I know you do your own recording and things like that, and recording for other people. Have you ever met? And I mean, like this guy is one of my all-time favorite like metal singers around. Have you ever met Devin Townsend?
There's an indirect connection between me and Devin Townsend. We worked with a band called The Matinee for about a year, and their bassist is also the bassist in Devin Townsend project.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, so I never met Devin Townsend, but I met his bassist.
Okay.
Ivic.
Yes,
I know who you're talking about though for sure.
Yeah, no, Devin Townsend's amazing. Wow, best, yes.
I need to point you to Ninja Sex Party. I don't know if you've heard of them or listened to them.
Ninja Sex Party.
Yeah, just I'm gonna plug them here. I love them.
Is this a band or is this a movie?
It's sort of a comedy band.
Mm-hmm. Kind of like Psycho Stick.
Yeah, but more sort of towards the 80s. Not really hair metalish kind of stuff, but really sort of very strongly 80s influenced.
Nice.
Yeah.
Kind of like Jack Black
or Steel Panther.
Actually, Ninja Sex Party did a collaboration with Steel Panther once. Also,
oh man,
yeah.
Yes, I need to listen to this now.
Also, Ivic,
Yes.
Ninja Sex Party is two people. The one guy is Ninja Brian, and the other one is Danny Sexbang, aka Danny from Game Grumps.
Are you serious?
I'm not fucking kidding.
Packed full of peanuts.
Yeah, well, exactly. It's that guy. He has a band.
No ways.
Yes,
That's amazing. Why is his name Sexbang though?
That's just the chosen name.
You are the chosen one. Anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, like, there's a lot of good music that comes out of America and Canada, actually, and, like, Devin Townsend is just one of those unsung, like, awesome people. He's just
I agree.
amazing.
They are the leaders in the music industry. I mean, you can't deny that.
Have you heard of a band called Battle Beast?
Nope.
No, but that sounds
Apparently, RK was talking about it. It was 2 or 3 days ago, and he's like, they are so furry, it's not even funny. Like, they have a song called Black Ninja. And the lead singer is amazing.
We have one of the artists I work with at work. Her name is Megan Lane, and she kind of got a bit of furry attention. I guess it would have been September, because she did her music video entirely with local fursuiters. I'll put the link up in the thing, but yeah, it's a pretty cool video. It's all local fursuiters, and the character, you'll see a guy, a brown suit with red, sort of like a red and yellow halter top kind of chest thing and a loincloth kind of thing. That character, his name's Pawnee, and he's actually Camp Farrell's mascot, and that was me the second time I've ever been in fursuit, and I was in the hot sun for like 9 hours doing that thing.
I think I think I have it here in front of me. It's called Megan Lane Sunday We Will Leave This Town.
Yeah, that's it.
But that's an amazing video, like, except for the hunter, who...
The hunter, and the irony of it, the hunter, this is a very incestuous music community up here in Canada. The hunter his name is Tom Wilson, and he was lead singer of, and sort of main songwriter for 2 bands called Junk House, and one was called Blackie and the Rodeo Kings. And then he's in a new band called Lee Harvey Osmond. And
Nice.
as extra irony, they have now come to my company, so I may be working with the hunter on his music next.
I just find it weird that, like, when he chases after the car,
Yeah.
he, like, runs, he stops, he looks, and he sights it, and you're sitting there going, like, just take the shot.
Yeah.
He's just like, no, they're too far away.
Live, that was a lot of fun because he was just having fun sort of screaming stuff, and we have video of it. He was sort of making up insults, like, furry ass motherfucker kind of thing. Like, it's just like, so it's really funny that this, like, very respected Canadian musician is there interacting with the furries and pretending to kill them.
Can I ask you one thing regarding with your business? Do you do audio mastering?
No, I'm sort of trying to play around with it myself. I've always described mastering as being when you get to the engineering process, it's no longer a science when it's mastering, it's an art. It's very difficult to do properly. It's easy to do simply and not well, but it's very difficult to do well. I've played around with it, but I leave mastering to the skilled people.
Yeah, no, so you do recording. And
yeah, I do my own recording at home.
Obviously, composing.
Yeah.
Ah, cool. I just wanted to know, because I'm looking for people that does mastering, because I also want to give it up.
Yeah, just find somebody that does it and be happy to pay them to do it. Yeah.
No, guys, it's annoying. For those that don't know about music, is once your audio track is mixed and engineered, right, it goes through a process. Mixing and mastering is actually sort of the same thing. Not sort of the same thing, but it follows in the same goal.
Yeah.
At the end, your track goes through a process of compression. And that process is EQ compression is different compressors and stuff that gets used until your track turns into a fat sausage. Basically, everything is exactly the same volumes, but the track loses all its dynamics. But there's a way to do this properly. And it's such an annoying process because it's so easy to mess something up in it. And you have to listen to your music and your ears get trained towards it. And then what happens is you have to go away and listen to some other stuff for 2 days and come back and then listen to how you fucked up that track and do it again. So it's a process that every audio engineer hates. And people charge cheap for it. That's what bothers me. But it's because they just run it through like that's exactly what you just mentioned, is they run it through a workflow. instead
Yeah.
of doing it the artistic way. And because of sometimes okay, it doesn't sound cheap, but sometimes it's like $100 a track.
Yeah,
Which is $1,000 a track. So some people charge pretty cheap for it.
that's very cheap. There are some people that charge thousands and thousands per track.
No. But anyway, sorry for that. We're just two audio guys. It's good that we're talking.
Fat sausage.
No, but it does. It's actually literally when you look at your tracks,
Yeah.
and you look at the dynamics.
No.
It's just one fat thing. Now I'm catching you. It's just not,
Fat sausage.
it's just
Oh,
terrible.
yeah.
You guys don't understand how terrible it is.
Oh, fat
How meaty is.
It sounds fucking crap.
For you, maybe. You're like the only straight person ever on this entire thing. Yeah, like that's the funny part about this podcast. Like they're all three of us, and then there's one straight guy.
That sounds like it's weird because like most of the studies like that Nuka did and all Nuka here in Ontario did that study about sociological whatever. He's a smart guy, but he looked at the statistics and he finds that obviously there's actually a lot more straight furries than gay furries. But then you get into a crowd and you're like, this doesn't seem to follow the statistics.
Yeah, the data doesn't add up. I'm pretty sure that like a lot of the people who answered that were just kind of in denial.
Yeah, or it's just one of the arguments we used to have a long time ago, which is awful to say, is that the gay furries are generally more outgoing and more prone to starting things like events or businesses or anything like that. So it's just more visibility as a result.
That statistic is absolutely not true in South Africa.
Yeah.
We have like a very low percentage straight furs here compared to the bisexual. I would actually say the bisexual furs rather than the just gay furs, because
it's because it has a lot to do with that entire idea of the sexualization of a lot of the photos, things and pictures that you see. And the thing is that like, I mean, how can you not, like something that that's drawn as nicely as that? Like even being straight, you kind of sit there going like, oh God, that is amazing. And I mean like, and it just sort of moves like that.
So you're telling me that a lot of people find their sexuality within this fandom?
I would actually say that. I wouldn't disagree. I mean, and oddly enough, Nuka's results actually showed that the same way. That the longer you are in the furry community, the more
Likely.
the more likely it is that you'd actually change from at least gay, from at least straight to at least bisexual.
No, but they need to make more straight art.
Yeah, or you just need to put a filter on it.
There is a lot of straight.
Yeah, because recently I saw like a gigantic influx of straight art. By the way.
19.
What, 19?
19. Like we had 19 furs join. 18 since January. We had 18 furs join up, and I think
No, I'm talking about the art.
Oh,
I'm talking about like the most popular art on FA, right? Normally it was all these artists trying all sorts of different things, but the majority of it was the majority of incoming stuff was always not always, but gay. The top 4 artists all draw gay art.
Yeah.
Right?
that's how you make money.
And I was like, I envy the fact that because they are skilled, you can see it obviously in the pictures that they draw, and I'm like, oh man, why does that person draw these straight things, or why doesn't that? And then all of a sudden it just turned around, and everybody now there's like almost freaking it's the same load 2 ways, and it's happened like in the last 2 years, or what I've been seeing. I don't know if anybody else witnessed it, or maybe it's because of the WhatsApp group.
Hush!
What hush?
Don't knock the WhatsApp group. I like it.
No. I think it's because I'm seeing more and more of the properly drawn straight art because of that. Because the people are selecting the best ones out of it and starting posting those ones and saying, "Oh, this is." Where instead of going on a random page, and this is one thing that I hate about FA is the fact that people will actually like and favorite a fetish more than actual artwork.
Yeah.
So the drawing can be crap, like real crap, and then it will have like
Someone farting in somebody else's face.
4,000 favorites because it's like a fucking fetish.
Wait, where was that one picture that that sort of had that exact same thing going on? Continue talking. I'm just gonna look it up.
No, I think I'm done. I think I've dig deep enough just at the end of this conversation.
I think I have like
You're talking about the carpet group, aren't you?
no, I think he's just talking about the group in general.
No, I think I was talking about the one that Ivic mentioned.
Yeah. What's actually funny is that like every now and again somebody posts like a whole mess of pictures. So I'm on that group as well, mostly because I just love art. And I still remember I was scrolling through them at one point. It's just this really, really femme guy and another guy, and I'm just like, ha! It's not straight.
You fucking picker.
I'm not picking. That was
I saw
not
that.
straight.
I saw that, but I only saw the picture even after you guys commented. I have to actually honestly admit they drew that guy that it actually looks like a girl.
Yeah, well, that. I think that was the target market.
Mm-hmm.
So and then they just whacked the dick on it, and they say, look, it just looked at a guy. That is like hidden in the shadows. Oh no!
Yeah.
Look at his shadow. Do you see he has a dick?
Or there's like a little bit of underball sticking out.
Why? Yeah, I think that's a good note to end the podcast on.
I think this is where we stop.
Nice.
Well, the conversation will go there eventually. We'll probably do our triple X-rated podcast eventually.
Rue, you can join in if you'd like.
Yeah, I don't know
Totally.
if I want to be here.
Sure. I'll be there. I can just be there to be uncomfortable and occasionally say sorry and drink my Tim Hortons in here.
Yeah, damn it.
But I'm not supposed to feel uncomfortable.
No, it'll be fun. Yeah, definitely. Like, this is your guys' podcast. I don't want to interfere, but if you ever want me back to just chat about stuff, I'm down. It's fun.
It's cool. We like having you around.
Yeah.
So.
Yay!
No, we tend to do that. Like sometimes we're like, we like him, we want him on again. And
Yeah.
you're definitely in that
Okay.
in that category.
Guys,
Thank you, guys.
I didn't play any of Potoroo's music, mainly due to the fact that the internet connection stuff, I'm very wary on actually streaming a song and running the stream. So can I post a SoundCloud link?
I've actually posted both the SoundCloud but it was earlier. You can post it again. What you can do is that you can also link it into the YouTube when it goes up on YouTube.
Yes.
I'll put it on the Twitter as well.
The tweeter.
Alright, yeah, you just click on the link, click on the first the first few tracks or whatever ones, any songs that you can suggest.
We must
And there's also the Bandcamp if you want to go there. It has some older stuff. And you know what? I'm going to be nice. I actually, and I don't remember the reasoning behind it, I took down one of my older albums off of my Bandcamp, which is just rugoyle.bandcamp.com. I'm just going to put it back up. It's like the first album that I ever did solo. And if people really want to know, I do have my high school band's music up online if you want to hear and laugh at it.
We won't laugh too hard.
Just
Yeah,
fine.
but thanks again, Potoroo, for actually joining, and we really do appreciate you coming on. And I know that it's probably a bit of a time sort of strain for you as well. I mean, with like your really, really hectic like schedule.
Is
No,
it
it's all right.
is it the one that has the banner B folk?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm gonna put. I have another album there. I'm gonna make it active. It's actually the one I was talking about earlier when I was talking about selling. The only person selling at AC.
Uh-huh.
It's this one. I'm just gonna make it public. It's called One Man Boy Band. And it should be up there now. But yeah, you could check that out. That's older stuff, and pretty much all my stuff is there. And there's a little bit of extra stuff up right now on SoundCloud.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yay!
Alright, so I guess we're gonna call it a day. We're 6 minutes over our normal time.
Technically,
it was
we're
definitely
36
worth
minutes
it.
over. Yeah. No, it was worth it. It was fun. This was a good conversation.
We're not technically 36 minutes, we're 6 minutes over, apparently.
Normally, we did at an hour, remember?
Yeah.
Only since we moved here, where we have all this freedom.
To do these things. Right, but I'm gonna end the stream, so I'm gonna do the shout outs quickly. Which button is the what's its name button?
It's the face button.
The one with the
that-
Oh, I thought we had more listeners.
Yeah, but most of them, I know Titan Reaper left earlier, which is actually interesting that Titan Reaper's listening. Thank you, Titan Reaper.
Anyway.
Thanks, Helios. We know you're listening.
Is he? Well, interesting.
Yeah, Helios is probably listening.
Thank you, Buglish, and Baron the Dragon, and Enigmatic Wolf.
And then earlier there was, if I'm not mistaken, was one of Rue's friends, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, I think so. there are a couple of
Aladazian?
Aladacian.
Yes.
Oh,
Yeah. Aladacian
Payne-
was online for a
Kane
while.
was on as well. Honan was on.
Yep.
So thanks to everyone who listened. Seriously,
Yeah.
we enjoy having people judge our shit.
They all dropped off when the connection was giving that problem.
Yeah.
Nah,
Yeah.
I hope not. They should stay
It'll
online. It's
improve.
not gonna freaking last forever.
We
Anyway.
persevere. We persevere.
But yeah, like us all on Twitter. Scratch, like Potoroo on Twitter.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah.
Do you have a
Um,
Facebook page that we can like?
Yeah, I guess my personal one is just Gargoyle. That's the easiest way to find me because I think I'm the only one. And although I did actually see somebody put up art that was a Gargoyle with a pink mohawk, and I thought that was weird. And Roo Music, ROO Music, is my sort of official music Facebook page, but it's not as active. And also Camp Farrell, campfarrell.org, and the Camp Farrell YouTube has about 60 or more videos where you can see both the site and people having fun at Camp Farrell, but also our really stupid videos. Last year was a Game of Thrones theme, and somebody bashed my head in with a guitar in the very first episode, just like Sean Bean. So
Nice.
check it out.
And by the way,
Spoiler alert, by the way.
I really want to ask you to like ship some of the Rubru. I need
Oh,
to try.
totally.
Yeah.
Yeah,
please.
that makes awesome beer.
Dude, if you're doing that, seriously, I want some.
We love craft
Yeah.
beer.
Yeah.
I could try to get you guys some beer and maybe some Canadian treats, maple treats and stuff.
Nice. Yay! Woo!
Sweet.
We're more Canadian than you think.
Anyways, guys, that's just from my side.
Cheers for me.
There's some scratch.
Goodbye,
And
eh?
Nice.
Goodbye, eh?
Cheers, guys.
Cheers, guys.